Excellencies, distinguished delegates, survivors of the Nakba, I thank you for inviting me to speak here today. I must begin by saying that I am speaking in my role as the coordinator of the military embargo campaign of the BDS movement, but also as the grandson of Israel Magali, a war criminal who has participated in the massacre in Lid, one of the atrocities of the Nakba in 1948. Over 400 of the city's residents were killed in the massacre, and about 70,000 were expelled in the March of Death to the West Bank. 77 years ago, the world witnessed the planned expulsion of over 750,000 Palestinians from their homes, a deliberate, systematic destruction of society known as the Nakba, to establish Israel as a Jewish supremacist settler colonial state. Yet today we gather not only in memory of that injustice, but in witness to its continuation. The Nakba has never ended. The Israeli project of to ethnically cleanse Palestine of its indigenous population continues in a plethora of forms. The use of starvation as a weapon, what UN human rights experts describe as domicide, herbicide, scholasticide, medicide, cultural genocide, and more recently, ecocide, turning hospitals into mass graves, and the bombs paid for and supplied by the United States and a handful of other states that have turned the majority of the Gaza Strip into rubble and its population, mostly made up of Nakba refugees, homeless again. We are witnessing an ongoing genocide, the world's first live-stream genocide against 2.3 million Palestinians, perpetrated by the apartheid state of Israel, a UN member state, which has, since its inception, never fulfilled the most basic criteria of UN membership. The genocide is perpetrated mostly with US-made weapons, also with military and dual-use material and military intelligence from Germany, the UK, Italy, France, Netherlands, Greece, Cyprus, Serbia, India, Japan, even Vietnam, among others. Other countries like Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Morocco, among others, knowingly facilitate the transport of military material arming Israel's genocide. We must not forget that Israeli forces are rampaging through the occupied West Bank as well, committing massacres and mass expulsions, particularly targeting refugee camps and Nakba survivors. Thousands of Palestinian prisoners are facing torture, sexual violence, and starvation in Israeli prisons. The crackdown on basic freedoms has intensified that no one, not even Jewish citizens of Israel, are free to speak about the unprecedented depravity and enormity of the atrocities. The bombs are dropped by US F-35 jets, with parts manufactured in 17 countries. Without these weapons, there will be no genocide, no apartheid, and the Nakba will end. The world learned of the ethnic cleansing of 1948 and was silent. Today, as the ethnic cleansing escalated into genocide, all live-streamed, millions around the world are not silent. Many states are not silent. But many, especially in the colonial West, are not just silent, but entirely complicit. We are here today because the international community has a choice. Will we be complicit in this genocide and the systematic destruction of the pillars of international law, or will we finally take concrete action and enforce the law consistently without fear or favor? The military embargo against Israel is a legal and moral duty. The International Court of Justice ruled on January 26, 2024, that Israel's actions in Gaza plausibly constitute genocide. Under the Genocide Convention, every state has an obligation not just to refrain from genocide, but also to prevent and punish it. And yet, while Palestinians bury tens of thousands of their children in mass graves, complicit states, weapon manufacturers, energy and tech companies continue to arm and otherwise enable the perpetrators. The United States transfers countless bombs and other weapons to Israel since October 7, more than all other countries combined. Germany, despite its historic duty to prevent genocide, remains one of Israel's top arms suppliers. The Black Cross of the Luftwaffe, the Air Force, is painted on drones which Germany lent to Israel to bomb Gaza. Serbia, a signatory to the Arms Trade Treaty, increased arms sales to Israel by 3,000% in 2024. Japan has authorized the sale of Fanuc industrial robots to Israel, which are dual-use items, despite evidence that the robots are used to produce 155mm shells, drone parts, and other weapons by the Israeli arms industry, and in violation of Japan's foreign policy and Fanuc's policy of export to arms companies. This is not just a moral failure, it is an utter legal failure as well. The Arms Trade Treaty prohibits military transfers where there is risk of war crimes, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, or genocide. The Geneva Convention forbid collective punishment. Israel is in blatant violation of the ICJ orders. All direct and indirect arms trade with Israel or its arms companies also violates the ICJ advisory opinion of July 19, 2024, which was adopted by the UN General Assembly on September 18, 2024. Third states have a responsibility to avoid selling military materiel, including dual-use items, to Israel, to avoid importing weapons and spyware from Israel, and to avoid transiting such military materiel to Israel through their territory, ports, and airspace. States must also end joint military training exercises and military research with Israel. It may take some time, but accountability will come. As I know from Jewish history, it will come for the governments that have authorized arms export permits to Israel in full knowledge of its atrocity crimes. It will come to the corporations that have enabled and profited from genocide: Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Boeing, Rheinmetall, Fanuc, and many others, who are already facing protest, divestment, and lawsuits. It will come to the energy companies like Chevron, and also to the shipping companies such as Maersk and Zim that have illegally delivered deadly cargo to Israel throughout this genocide. It saddens me that I have even to bring up the argument, but in addition to being immoral and illegal, the arms trade with Israel is also foolish and short-sighted. This is a cynical argument, but it must be made because many ministries of defense in the world are not swayed by moral and legal arguments. We must remember, therefore, that the illegality of military ties with Israel and growing military embargo means that Israeli arms companies are less and less likely to be in position to honor contracts which are signed now, but which prescribe arms transfers, maintenance, and support in the coming years. Likewise, the Israeli government is unlikely to be able to honor agreements to buy weapons. Israeli arms dealers present themselves as experts in security and warfare when in fact they test their weapons on Palestinian civilians, not on conventional armies. Israel's Spike missile, produced by the company Rafael, is marketed as an anti-tank missile even though it was never used against tanks. It is used exclusively against civilian apartments, cars, and ambulances. Israel banned third states, including the US, from delivering Israeli-made Spike missiles to Ukraine, arguably because of their fear that if Ukraine will use the missiles against Russian tanks, defense officials worldwide will witness this weapon's utter failure in real battlegrounds. Nevertheless, many of the states represented here continue to buy the Spike missile. From Israel. The UK ended its Watchkeeper program based on Israeli drones because, and I quote, of their unfortunate tendency to crash. Australia decided to stop using the Israeli Battle Management System, BMS, because of definite concerns that the Israelis are backdooring the system for information. Corruption and propaganda aside, these deals with Israel's arms industry are immoral, illegal, and foolish. Arming Israel is immoral and illegal not just because of the genocide, but also because of the brutal apartheid system, which has existed for 77 years, the illegal occupation of 58 years, and the ongoing denial of the rights of Palestinians, the right to live in freedom, to enjoy equality and the right of return of the Palestinian refugees. Arms trade fuels regional instability. The same weapons used to bomb Gaza today are used to attack Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran, risking wider war. Many states have taken some action already to review, restrict, or ban the military trade with Israel. Public opinion, mass protests, civil society action, lawsuits filed on behalf of the Palestinians have forced governments to act, such as Colombia, Ireland, Italy, Malaysia, and Spain. We must acknowledge the large amount of weapons which were stopped, export licenses, materials, ammunition, and contracts which were voided. I do not have the time to list these important actions, but their importance cannot be overstated. Each bomb that is stopped saves human lives. But these measures, while commendable, are not enough. A full global military embargo, as called for by the UN Human Rights Council, UN human rights experts, the Hague Group, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the Turkish Initiative, signed by 52 states, among others, is the bare minimum required by international law. We all know that waiting for the UN Security Council to decree military embargo equals a blank check for Israel and its allies to continue genocide and apartheid. It underwrites the end of the credibility of the UN and the multilateral world order based on international law. In conclusion, the Nakba has never ended, but neither has our duty to stop it. To the government still shipping military material to Israel, history will judge you, and eventually so will international courts. The blood of tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza, over 18,000 of them children, is on your hands too. The live-stream genocide in Gaza will remain a dark stain on human history. No war in history has claimed the lives of so many journalists, humanitarian aid workers, UN personnel, and so on. No war in recent history has claimed so many children. It is a colonial war of annihilation of the natives. The intention to commit genocide is clear as day. It is not too late to change course, to impose on apartheid Israel a comprehensive military embargo, as was done against apartheid South Africa. This is for Palestinians, for humanity, for what remains of the credibility of international law and the UN itself. Today we say, stop the weapons, stop the genocide, end the ongoing Nakba. The Palestinian people have struggled 77 years for justice. The UN was deeply complicit in the 1948 Nakba. It and its member states, each and every one, must end it now. Palestinians cannot wait any longer. Thank you.